The secret that stole my son's hand. The doctor's voice echoed in my ears, cold and sharp as a blade. To save your son's life, we must amputate his hand. My breath caught in my throat. My husband, Chidi, turned to me with eyes I had never seen before, eyes full of disgust, disappointment, and questions he could not bring himself to ask. And in that instant, I realized the truth. The secret I had kept hidden had finally destroyed everything I loved. But to understand how I got here, I must take you back. My name is Chioma, and I'm the first daughter of my parents, the only girl among 3 brothers. At 20 years old, while others my age still clung to girlhood, I was already someone's wife. I met Chidi in the most ordinary way. It was on a rainy afternoon at the university library. I had been struggling to carry a stack of heavy books when he appeared, smiling, and said softly, "Allow me." He reached for the books, his fingers brushing mine, and though I had met many men before, there was something different about him. Chidi was not boastful. He was not loud. He looked at me as though I was the only one in the room. From that day, he pursued me with a patience that melted my defenses. "Chioma," he would say, "I don't just want to be your friend. I want to walk this life with you." In 2017, he proposed. Within a month, our families gathered for the traditional marriage. I still remember the sound of the talking drums, the laughter of my relatives, and the warmth of my father's hand as he blessed me. Dressed in coral beads and a wrapper the color of burning sunset, I carried a calabash of palm wine, searching for Chidi among the crowd. When I found him, my heart raced. Kneeling, I offered him the cup, and as he drank, the crowd erupted in cheers. That night, under the flicker of lanterns, I felt certain that joy would always be my portion. My marriage was smooth, like we understood each other, plus he was a perfect gentleman. But marriage is not always a song. 3 years passed. The drums of our wedding had long faded, but the sound of silence grew louder in our home. No child. No cry of a baby. Chidi never blamed me. He loved me fiercely, shielding me from the cruel whispers. But others were not so kind. The pressure, though, from my mother-in-law and my own mother was draining. One afternoon, his mother barged into our living room, her face a mask of rage. "Chidi, open your eyes," she shouted. "This girl you call wife is not ordinary. She has eaten all your children in the spirit world." Her words pierced me like arrows. I fell to my knees, sobbing. But Chidi stood firm, pulling me close. "Mama, don't you dare speak of my wife like that again." Still, she did not stop. She cornered me one morning in the kitchen, her voice low and venomous. "Confess, Chioma. You are a witch. You will never succeed in my son's life." Even my own mother, though gentler, sighed often and said, "Oma, my daughter, please try harder. Don't let people laugh at us." I carried the weight of those words on my shoulders. I visited a lot of hospitals. I took a lot of herbal medicine, bitter, smelly and rotten herbs. Name them, I took them all. Then came 2020. In the middle of the pandemic, when the world was silent and afraid, I fell ill. Chidi and I thought it was the virus, but after the test, the doctor's lips curved into a smile. "Madam, congratulations. You are pregnant," the doctor said. "Pregnant? Me?" Tears rushed down Chidi's face as he lifted me into his arms, twirling me like a child. For the first time in years, joy filled our home. But 4 months later, I lost the pregnancy. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Yet, even in my grief, I clung to hope. At least I now knew I could conceive. By 2021, I was pregnant again. This time, I carried it to term. I gave birth to our first child, a boy. Chidi's mother, the same woman who once called me a witch, danced as though her legs had found new strength. She lifted her grandson high and wept. Chioma, forgive me. You are a good woman. Not long after, I conceived again, twins. A boy and a girl. Our house was alive with laughter, the walls echoing with tiny cries and coos. For the first time, I thought my troubles were behind me. But fate is cruel. When the twins were barely 5 months old, I discovered I was pregnant again. My joy turned to fear. I remembered the whispers, the judgment, the sly looks from neighbors. I wasn't ready to face that again. I was scared of what people would say about me not having self-control. Even my mother frowned when I told her, "Oma, slow down. A woman must know when to stop." Fear gripped me. Fear of what people would say. Fear of shame. I confided in my close friend, Tina. She looked at me with pity and said, "There are ways to handle it." She gave me some pills, promising they would work quietly. But nothing happened. I went back to her, desperate. She came to my house one afternoon, placed another medicine on the table, and left quickly. The twins were upstairs, sleeping. I sat in the living room with Jason, my first son, as the packet of medicine sat on the table. Moments later, the twins cried out. I rushed upstairs, rocking them back to sleep. By the time I returned, Jason had swallowed the medicine. "Madam," my nanny screamed, struggling with him. Jason don't swallow the medicine, wait the table. My blood turned cold. I panicked. Managed to say don't worry, the medicine is for him, and she apologized as she walked away. I forced palm oil into his mouth, then coconut water. He coughed, vomited a little, and seemed fine. I breathed a sigh of relief. But 1 week later, Jason's tiny fingers stiffened. His cries tore through the house like thunder. He couldn't eat with his hand, he was weak and his fingers were beginning to swell. I was terrified but yet didn't say anything. At night he was screaming in pain and my conscience was killing me. By morning, his hand had turned dark. My husband and I rushed him to the hospital, and after endless tests, the doctor's voice was grave. To save his life, we must amputate his hand. Chidi roared, his voice shaking the walls. "Doctor, how? My son was fine. How can you say his hand must be cut off? There must be another way." But I knew the truth. Tears blurred my vision as I sank to my knees. My words came out in a broken whisper. "Chidi, it was me. It was my fault. I never meant for it to happen." Jason swallowed the medicine. I was trying to. I couldn't finish. The weight of my confession hung in the air. For the first time since I met Chidi, he looked at me with disgust. He walked out of the office without a word. Hours later, he returned, his eyes red from crying. Without speaking to me, he signed the consent papers. The surgery was done. Jason's life was spared, but his hand was gone. When he woke, I had to explain things to him but couldn't because Chidi stepped in and his small, innocent voice cut deeper than a sword. "Daddy, when will my hand grow back?" Chidi looked at him, then at me. His reply was quiet, but it pierced my soul. "Ask your mother." Since that day, my marriage has never been the same. The love that once held us together now feels fragile, shadowed by suspicion and pain. Every time I watch Jason struggle to play, to hold his toys, to reach for what other children can easily grasp, guilt crushes me. I let fear guide me. I let people's voices drown out my own. And in doing so, I paid the ultimate price: my son's hand, my husband's trust, my peace. If I could turn back time, I would choose courage. I would choose honesty. I would choose silence over Tina's counsel, strength over fear. But the past cannot be undone. This is my story. A story of how I lost everything, not because of fate, not because of witches, but because I cared too much about what people would say.